Hey guys, this is Michael at JMS Ranch. Just wanted to give you an introduction on the project that we're working on, and then subsequently we'll post some update videos along the way of things that we learn so that you can learn. We're restoring a 1979 Stidham 2-horse ramp load trailer. And as I started Googling on this project, I found a lot of people asking questions and not a whole lot of in-depth, thorough answers. So our goal is to provide you with some of those answers that we have questions and haven't been able to find answers to along the way, or some of the things that we do learn, and we can pass that information along. The trailer that we're working with is structurally sound. It doesn't have a lot of rusting, and there's only a couple of spots on the walls that have rusted all the way through. And when I say small spots, I'm talking about the size of a pencil eraser or smaller. So really not too bad a condition. All the floorboards and all the undercarriage are in good shape, the axles and all that. So we're dealing with a pretty structurally sound trailer. Now there's basically two major steps to redoing the looks of a trailer. You have to take the old paint off, then you put the new paint on. And that might seem overly simplistic, and it is. But I'm going to try to deal with the sections as they come up, and I'll try to give you the overview now in those two sections. First of all, before you strip the paint, no matter which way you go, buy a respirator. Whether you're going to go a chemical way, you're going to want the respirator to clean out those fumes from the air you're breathing. Or if you're going to go the manual way, you definitely want that paint dust not flying in your lungs, because that stuff is nasty. So get a respirator, and then I'll try to address those two different methods. There is chemical removers for paint. The product that we've tried is called Aircraft Remover from Clean Strip, and it does work. It's not the most efficient method that we found, and it's not the fastest method that we found, but it does work. And there's some spots where the angle grinder isn't going to be able to get into, and we're going to have to use that chemical stripper to get in those sections. But that brings us to the manual way. Growing up on the farm, if we needed to take the paint off of something, we grabbed an angle grinder and a wire brush, and we went to town. And that does work, but it's not the most efficient method. And I also tried a wire cup. Same story on that. The one thing that we found that works really, really well is called a stripping wheel. And it's a polycarbonate stripping wheel that is made for an angle grinder. And its purpose is to strip the paint off of metal, specifically automotive, but it definitely works for these trailers too. So I think they're about $5 to $10 depending on where you get them. And that's worth investing in. It's roughly the same price as a wire wheel, but it works way, way better. So we found that to be the best method. You don't need a big heavy-duty angle grinder for this. I'm just using a $10 one from Harbor Freight, and it's working like a charm. Best case scenario, if I burn one up, Harbor Freight will give me a refund or a replacement. Worst case scenario, I'm out $10. So either way, not a bad situation. Once you get all the paint stripped off, then you've got to go back and repaint it. Now there's two ways that you can do this. You can do the old rattle can way and just get your spray paint out and go to it. Or you can do the more professional way and get either an airless, or I'm going to use an air compressor and a spray gun. And there's some things that I'll try to give more details on that when we get there. But we're going to go that route. And I've got a compressor, I've got the spray gun. And then when you buy automotive paint, you can buy it in the spray cans, or you can buy it by the gallon or by the quart, whatever suits you. And so we're going to go that way. But when you get to that point, there's three major things that you need to know. First of all, you need to put a primer on. If you don't put a primer on, two things are going to happen. Number one, your base coat is not going to stick as well. And number two, you're not going to have the corrosion resistance that you would have with a primer. So we're going to put on a high build primer. That'll fill in some of those imperfections and maybe some of the pitting that we're dealing with from some of the rusting. Again, it's not bad, but I'd rather cover it up and make it look a little bit better. And so we're dealing with a high build primer to start with. Once we get that on, then there's two different ways you can go. And I've talked to body shops in the area, and they give me mixed reviews on what I should do. So once I make that decision, I'll try to pass that on to you as well. The first option is you can go with what's called a single stage base coat and clear coat all together. And you can get that in a tractor enamel or something like that. I know Tractor Supply carries that for painting farm implements. And that works, and it's a decent product. there's something called oxidization that will happen to your paint over time, and that can actually change the color, or at least the hue of your paint. It's not going to change it from a red to a brown, but it might change it from a red to a little bit lighter red. And so you want to take that into consideration. The other option is a two-stage where you put the base coat on first and then you put on the clear coat. Oxidization will still happen, but at least as I understand it, it happens in a less visible way. So depends on what you're going to do. If it's going to sit outside a lot, you probably want to go the base coat and clear coat way. If you're storing it inside, it might not be as big of a deal to go single stage, and that is a little bit quicker. Obviously, you don't have to lay down as many coats because, let's say you do two layers of base coat or 3 layers of base coat and 3 layers of clear coat. Then you're dealing with 6 layers where you could do 3 layers of single stage and be done with it quicker. Depends on what you're doing, but you can make that decision for yourself. Another thing that I found that is very, very helpful in the stripping stage is take off as much as you can from the physical part of the trailer. This is a ramp load, so it's got bumpers that are to prevent the actual ramp from hitting the ground. So it's got those little rubber bumpers. Take those off if you can. Take as many handles off as you can. As much as you can get out of your way, the better, because the less you have to work around, the less time it's going to cost you. And if you can just work with a fresh sheet of metal, that's your best case scenario. So take off as much as you can before stripping, or as you go, you can take it off and put it back on, whatever works for you. And then the last thing that I'm going to say for this video is it's helpful to mask off as much as you can with masking tape or plastic, newspaper, whatever you've got. I've got windows on mine. If you're dealing with a stock trailer, you're not going to have the same problem. But I've got these windows on mine, and I don't want them covered in this paint dust. And so we are masking those off so that we don't have to deal with that problem. But anyway, as we try to get through this project, and we're just doing it ourselves, we're learning as we go. And so we'll try to pass on as much of that information to you as we can. And hopefully you can learn from what we're learning. And the next time we need to do this, we'll know what to do too. Hopefully we never have to do this again. But anyway, this is Michael from JMS Ranch signing off for now.